Hey guys, this is Paul of Emerald Enclosures here, and by request of my friend Art, I'm going to be doing a video focusing on the ins and outs of aquaponics. Out of necessity, for a lot of my new vase aquariums that I'm working on, I wanted to make another aquaponic tank so I can grow more plants and so I can create any kind of tank I need on the fly, the little ones. So let me get into that. Now, as you can see by the state of my room, I'm kind of in upheaval right now. It's been a long, arduous day. Me and my friend Chris, we went to Homedale Park to look around and see what we could find after we went and got a haircut. And we decided to take some samples of aquarium, lake water. And we also caught some fish to go along with them. So, as you can see there, picked up a couple of wild minnows. If anyone's ever been to Petco or PetSmart, I'm sure you're familiar with minnows. People usually use them as feeder fish. I kind of like them though, just as they are. But I believe I picked up 9 along with this very nice, I don't know what type of plant it is, but I intend to look that up a little bit later. I kind of threw this tank together on the fly. I never intended to make it today, but I did, and I figured I'd use these fish in my aquaponic tank. For now though, this 5.5 gallon tank here is just a temporary holding tank. I might use it as a nursery tank. As you can see, I got a lot of sediment from the lake also. The visibility is starting to increase, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be keeping this tank indefinitely. I am interested to sift through this muck though and see what I got. I was kind of hoping to catch a couple of tadpoles, but I do not believe I got any. Microorganism cell, I'm a little bit more interested in seeing what we got. Oh look, there's a fish. Some of them are pretty big. I set it up with a air stone, and I ran a line to the pump that I have here in this module. I really need to pay attention to my filming. I don't want to be putting my camera on the side. That kind of messes with the film later, and then I have to adjust it. And I'm also messing around with keeping egg crate on the tops of this tank, and I'm using it to keep, start off these pothos plants clippings that I got from outside. I'm expecting to see some root growth really soon. As you can see, those little nubs on the bottom, that's where new roots come out of. I also found this plant here in the forest when we were at Homedale Park. I just liked it. If anything, I'm thinking about just keeping this little tank up here and just for starting off clippings. I kind of like this setup. I may do more with this in the future. Maybe use this as some sort of I don't know what, but I kind of digging this tank. Yeah, maybe I'll just use it to start off. The minnows are kind of feisty. They don't seem to be fighting each other though. But maybe I'll just use this tank as like some sort of control. And I'm just interested to see how it's going to progress with all that sediment on the bottom. Who knows, maybe there'll even be some sort of mysterious bug that I didn't notice. But anywho, I guess I'll explain this. I bought another one of these chrome shelving units from Home Depot that I use for this aquaponic tank. I have 2 mini goldfish in here. I'm just trying to adjust. My camera doesn't really want to. Oh, there they are. I've explained this before. I feed fish with premium goldfish and koi food. The poop breaks down and kind of falls to the bottom of the tank, and there are microorganisms in it that break it down further. The ammonia gets released into the water, and the ammonia gets converted by the beneficial bacteria that's inside the water into nitrites and then nitrates. The nitrates are what are used by plants. As you can see, there are no plants inside this tank. So that's why that pump is there. And the reason that it's high like that is just so that there's no overflow. It's kind of like a safety precaution. Just in case for some reason the grow bed up top ever got plugged up, then I'll have the pump there just in case. So the water can only fall down a certain distance. The water gets sucked up by this tube, and it gets dispensed into this grow bed with tons of different types of water plants in it, and the ones that I plan on using for my projects. But as you can see, it's overgrown. I have a ton of different types of plants. Pothos, is pothos, variegated pothos, philodendron, you can tell by the heart-shaped leaf, an arrowhead plant, although I think it's only staying alive. I don't think I got enough of the bottom, and I don't think it's going to root. I have wandering Jew in the back, which is one of my favorite plants. And deep in this jungle, which I'm probably going to move now that I have the second tank set up, this is part of a peace lily. And as you can see, ever since I put new fish into this tank, I don't think that you'd notice the difference, but these plants are growing out of control. They're even, I'm starting to climb the side of the wall there. It's a really nice alternative for people who want to not do water changes, because I literally never change this water in this tank. All I ever do is take the water out and use it for projects, because it's so highly full of nitrifying bacteria. And for other tidbits, when the water with the nitrates gets sucked out of the tank, it's pulled up and into the grow bed, and as you can see here, let me readjust the lighting, there are tons of roots underneath this clay pebble layer. The clay pebbles are good because it allows the roots to gain tensile strength. If they were in a completely aquatic environment, they wouldn't gain a lot of strength. And if they were ever to be put into a land scenario, they would be it'd be like astronauts in space. When they come back down, they have no muscle mass anymore, so they literally can't stand up. It's the same thing as if I try to move these plants if they were just sitting in an aquatic environment. So by forcing them to kind of run their roots through these clay pebbles, I'm maximizing the different things I could be doing with them. Also, clay pebbles are the choice of aquaponic users all around, along with different types of gravel. Now, the water, when it's done being, with the plants absorbing the nitrates, it falls back down into the tank there. You see it from there. And the water is cleared out of all nitrates, ammonia, and it cleans the water for the fish. The only thing I ever have to do is top off the water. And most of this water is not lost to evaporation, actually. It's lost to the absorption by the plants themselves, which is really cool. And the only thing I could possibly do, maybe, is make a top for this, which I probably will do eventually, just so that I can minimize the amount of water lost by evaporation. As I said, not much, but it's still there. But I got a reverse osmosis filter recently, and I've been using distilled water up until now. So it's a lot more convenient. I have access to as much water as I need. I just have to wait for the reverse osmosis storage container to actually fill up. which takes a little bit in between fills, which is why it's taking a while for me to fill this new tray back up with water. And I made this setup the exact same way I made this new setup the exact same way I made this setup, with all the trimmings. The only difference is the size of that air stone. I kind of went overboard. The air stone, I almost forgot to mention. I mentioned the apparatuses, but the air stone pumps extra oxygen into the water, and as there are no plants down there, it's semi-needed because of the fish. The fish need to have oxygen, to breathe, but it also fills two other needings. It fills the water with oxygen, which is used by the roots of the plants also. Without it, they would basically suffocate. But a little bit was being knocked into the water either way through this drop-off pipe, but not as much as the air stone. What also uses the the oxygen that's diffused into the water. Oh, and I'll explain this real quick. When water hits the surface, it pushes oxygen into the water and it diffuses. So technically that's probably enough oxygen for the entire setup, but as I said, I wanted to just be sure. Because not only do the plant roots and the fish use the oxygen, but also the nitrifying bacteria require it to grow. And without that, the cycle could crash. So this is just me covering my, everything to make sure everything works out as planned. I also have that back there, but I don't have any real use for it because I don't really pay attention to the temperature. My room is pretty stable, around usually 75 degrees. But I'm going to be setting up this tank the exact same way. The only difference is the color of the gravel and the size of the air stone. Gravel really doesn't make a difference. I actually bought that gravel a long time ago before I really started to learn about the importance of different types of gravel and different types of fertilizers that come with it. So this gravel isn't anything special, it's just something to allow the bacteria to cling to. I also picked up, while I was out, I had to go to Petco so I can pick up the air stones. I picked up a couple of bags of Eco Complete, which I use for my projects. The ones that actually require some aesthetically pleasing looks. Like what I'm going to be doing with these glass containers up here. The only thing I really hate about this is buzz from this air stone. I mean, I'm not the air stone, air pump. I need to add some extra fluff underneath. Maybe I can get rid of that completely. And this was from a bell siphon I made. It's just I don't need it to actually work with this kind of setup because none of these plants need their roots to stay moderately dry. So I just took the bell siphon out as it was kind of a waste. And my next step would have been to, I really don't think that I need to cut my video and then start pasting things together. But just going over it, I was just cleaning some pebbles before this, clay pebbles. And they're what I used to fill this up, as you can see. It's just the water moves right through it. A little bit of wandering Jew there. I'm not sure if anything's going to happen with that. There's some moss. Me and Chris picked up a ton of moss today, and I'm just hydrating it before I put it into a grow bed. Really need to hydrate this one a little bit more. Although I feel like this moss could probably do to stay on the dry side a bit. But a little water's not going to hurt. And you can see a little bit of the apparatus. This isn't an overly complicated setup, by far. The only thing that I'm missing right now is the pump, which I've ordered online. But in the meantime, I'm just going to set this thing up and get it ready to go. Or I may just take it out of my, one of my other experiments. My experiment with the drip log. I'm going to give you guys an update on that. How would I put it? I'm getting the results that I'm looking for, just not as much. I'm going to try and mix up the chemistry of the water and see if that changes anything. The drip log is that little piece of log with the with the pump attached to it that's just running the water over it constantly to fill it, to keep it moist, and for the Java moss to grow on it. So it's working, just not as much as I wanted it to. It could also be because of there's not enough light. I'm going to try and increase the light actually before I mess around with the water chemistry. But as you can see here, I put this piece of cloth here so I can block the light from like direct light, like the one I have up there, which is a daylight bulb, from touching the tank, because I don't want the tank to start growing algae, and the algae is going to steal the nitrates. So no light, no algae. That's why I keep this pretty dark. I mean, I don't feel too terribly bad because it's not like the entire room is dark, so the fish are not living in complete darkness like some people keep their aquaponic tanks, which I feel terribly bad for the fish. Anyway, I ran 2 lines, as I said up there. You can see it in the corner. One air stone, and you can see the bubbles coming off of it. And then I ran another one right over there. And once this is completely filled up with water, I'm going to start cycling it. I'm going to probably go with corpse cycling, which I find is the easiest, simplest way to cycle a tank. Basically, you take something dead and you place it in there. I use dead mealworms because mealworms just drop dead sometimes. But you could also use, I've seen people use shrimp tails. It's just whatever, something that will decompose into the water and release ammonia out over time. And the nitrifying bacteria will start building up and growing by using the ammonia that gets released from the decomposing organic matter. But as you can see there, I set it up with the drop tube. And as you can't see it in the other tank because of how it's already full of gravel, I grabbed a, I'm not sure what kind of plumber's knob you would call that, but I attached it to this tubule. Yes, tubule. Let's just call it a tubule. And the water won't get past a certain height unless it gets clogged, and then the water's going to just keep rising. But I'm going to keep the pump a certain height so that that won't happen. Here, a hose barb adapter. That's what that gold thing is back there, just for the completeness of this video's sake. And that's basically it. I just wanted to show you guys how I do my set up my aquaponic tanks, and you know, the specifics about it. Personally, I think aquaponics is the future. I mean, you can, using the bell siphon there, which will automatically drain the water even without any sort of extra technology like a pump, you can grow absolutely anything using aquaponics. You can grow carrots, you can grow aloe vera, you can grow basil, potatoes, anything that you could possibly think of. And I'm thinking about using it for other things like bromeliads, although bromeliads really don't gain their nutrients from it's kind of dark. I didn't want to mess around with it too much. I'll just take the entire box. But I'm pretty sure you can grow a bromeliad using that kind of method. I picked up a Hedera helix. Hedera helix is a scientific name, but it's a painted ivy, I think it was called. And also this bromeliad. I forgot its scientific name, but I think it's called red sun. Really beautiful, isn't it? I want to find a use for that. But yeah, I was just showing off because I really love that red bromeliad. But anyway, this is basically how I set up my aquaponic tanks. And I'm going to be using them to grow even more different varieties of plants. Like, once this thing gets set up, I'm going to be growing ivy out of that. This variegated painted ivy. Kind of looks like vinca, doesn't it? same kind of coloration with the white accents. Really nice. And it's nice and small. I just wonder if creeping fig can be grown like this. But anywho, that's my video on aquaponics. Thank you guys for watching. Again, I really appreciate anyone who does. And just, I'd appreciate if you guys would like or subscribe. At least like, just show me that you have interest in videos like this. Because I have no problem going over how I do any of these kind of setups. If you show interest, I'll keep putting out more information. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. You have a great day. Bye.